Warning, this podcast has stories of real-life events and true crime that happens every day. These stories may contain adult language and graphic or disturbing details not suitable for everyone. Listener discretion is advised.
132 I've got him at gunfight. We're pulling them out.
911. Advise ready for camp.
Welcome to another episode of War Stories. I'm Tom.
And I'm Chuck.
And what a week it's been.
Oof, it's been an intense week. You got Putin and doing some crazy
We
shit.
try to keep this podcast evergreen. We locker room, we talk about, topical issues and stuff like that. We try to just deal with the war stories, but at this point, I mean, how do you just avoid the elephant in the room of the invasion? So we'll repeat it at the end of this, but for those of you who are hearing this on Monday and didn't catch it, Chuck, Matt, and I, we did a live show on Saturday, and it has been we recorded the live show and we reposted it. So if you missed it live, you can go back to YouTube or Facebook or Instagram and catch it as the recording of it. It's just a short. We've been getting a lot of questions about our thoughts on the Ukraine and what's going on.
A lot.
and so we don't want to tackle that here. This is war stories for our brothers and sisters and veterans and cops and firefighters and stuff like that. We'll deal with that over there. So for today, Chuck, we have a guest that I'm really looking forward to. Tell us all about Chris. How are you, Chris?
I'm doing wonderful. Hey, thanks for the invite, guys. I really super appreciate it.
You're welcome.
We're super glad you could come on. In fact, Chris, why don't we have Chris tell us about himself since Chris is here?
Okay. All right. Got hired out with Phoenix PD in '97. Retired 2018 after 20 years and 64 days on the nose. So that was
Nice.
pretty much all I could handle. So
Congratulations.
yeah, thanks. It was not an easy. I should say the first 18 years was actually pretty easy, and after that everything just fell apart. So, which obviously is why we're here. So,
right. It seems there's always a pivot moment where the wheels just fall off.
Oh God, damn! It's just unbelievable. It's unbelievable. So, called it quits, and then moved to California. I think my girlfriend and I are the only people in the world to move to California. But
yeah,
so we're. I know, right? I know. But it's always been a dream of ours.
Considering you were from Arizona, you did trade up a little. Because
a little bit, yes.
California has water.
That's the entire reason why we're here. That's the entire reason.
Hold on. Arizona has water. You got Parker. You got Havasu. Come on.
Yeah,
Dude,
but 145 degrees out, man.
I am over 26 years old. I don't give a shit about Havasu anymore.
Exactly.
Well, I'm just talking about like riverfront property for a
No, I get it. I had a friend.
Yeah,
I had a friend of mine. He's a cop. In fact, he still is. I won't say where because if you look at him up, he's been in quite a few little news stories locally where he's at. But he had a house in Bullhead City. We used to go out to Bullhead City all the time and frickin' hit the river and all that shit. So it's a good time when you're a young copper and you first buy that you get that overtime check and you buy that boat and you buy that frickin' vacation house and all of a sudden you spend all that time out there justifying the OT by I got to pay for the gas for the boat now.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah.
Amen.
So you were you're out in Arizona. What age? 24 years. 24
Phoenix.
Years and a bunch with Phoenix.
20 years. 20 years. Yeah.
20 years. And then you decided to hang it up and move to California. And how did you end up getting into law enforcement in the first place?
Well, it's kind of a funny story. I never really had an inkling to do it until I was I was back in construction back in the day, 92 to 96, give or take. And I ended up doing this job for this guy, and he thought I was super cool. He's like, "Hey, ever thought about being a cop?" And I'm like, "Okay." So that was, seriously, that's what it was. So I did, and I finished the job and started looking into it, and it took about a year, almost a year to the day, when I started testing before I finally graduated the academy. And then I ran into that same guy about a year later. I'm like, "Hey, remember me?" He's like, "No, you look like that same tweaker as before." So,
Right.
Turned out it was actually really good because his brother turned out to be a lieutenant for my agency. And so he had a plaque on the wall that said, "Hey, I think I know one of these guys," and that was a great icebreaker for my background investigator. So the rest is
Nice.
Oh,
history.
that's awesome.
So, yeah.
Yeah, background investigators can be a funny sort, man. I had one background investigator because I told him during the background process that, my father was in law enforcement and he'd been mentoring me through the process, and that, a friend of his was a lieutenant with the sheriff's department I was applying to, and he'd been helping me through the process and mentoring me. And, it really helped build my confidence about going through this process and about going through the academy and about my abilities to do the job. It came back to me later once I got on the job that the word he put into the department was that my dad had prepared me, and I was a shoe-in, and I was going to get the job regardless of what he thought, because I'd been so like,
Wow.
what the
Okay.
fuck?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's like fucking cock blocked you. Excuse my
Yeah,
language, but I couldn't think of another word.
But what's funny is he ended up getting fired for some shenanigans where it was like, oh, so I wasn't the asshole, you were. Got it. Okay, cool.
Dude. And there's so many of those guys that are just straight like dicks, but then there's so many good ones like Ken we've had on. He's
Like
a
Ken,
great person. And we can't say anything more highly of Ken.
No,
but you have background investigators, and I've had from 6 different agencies, and most of them were they were just not personable people, and they were I don't know if that's their whole thing is I'm just going to be a jerk and not want to talk to you, but you're all lying. I'm like, no, not all of us, dude.
Yeah.
And before we get too far into the weeds on the background thing, but I just wanted to say that to anybody out there that doesn't understand, the background process to get onto a police department is one of the most invasive, uncomfortable,
Oh my God, yes.
awful, shitty, if you think for one second, I mean, other than good old boy networks where, they don't really need to do a background because you're getting a job. Like most municipal agencies, most real agencies where they're doing a legitimate background check, it's uncomfortable as shit. And you really do feel violated in some ways because of the stuff you have to say and stuff you have to talk about. It's like therapy at gunpoint, right? They're making you right. Exactly. And I remember I just tell this story real quick, but I had shown stress, I'd shown deception, shown a reaction, however you want to put it, to 2 questions on the background during the poly. And the background investigator said, well, you showed a reaction to this. Is there some reason why you would react to that? And it was the first question was domestic abuse. And the next question was sexual activity with a minor, right? And so to be completely transparent to him, I said, yeah, my sister had been in an abusive relationship only a couple years before, where the guy had, broken a door and thrown a table and all this stuff. And my wife had been assaulted when she was underage. And so both of those questions were trigger questions for me. So I explained it to him. And he goes, okay, we'll check that out. And then he goes and interviews my wife and just goes, okay, so do this and your name and this is your husband and da-da. Were you sexually assaulted as a juvenile?
Oh God.
Just like that. And she just burst into tears and was like, what the fuck?
Wow.
And that was, it's so if you think that process is fun, stand by.
Oh yeah. Well, the not admissible polygraph, of course, because that's, going to prove something.
Yeah, well, I failed the first polygraph, and I think it's because at the beginning of the polygraph, I asked the examiner, I'm like, so how come these aren't admissible in court?
You're right.
Oops.
Done.
Yeah, I was 20, 22, 23. I didn't know.
That's a smart ass question.
I didn't mean it to be. I was genuinely curious, hey, how come?
These things are bullshit. Why don't they hold up in court?
Right.
That's how it read.
Yep. And so subsequently, I was vindicated years later when I went to the range and was doing entry gun training with a really good tactical instructor who also happened to be a polygraph examiner. And he goes, yeah, I got to get out of here on time today because I got to go put somebody on the Ouija board later. And I'm all, the what? And he goes, yeah, I got to put him on the Ouija board. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, that's what I call the poly. Now that I'm poly certified, I know what a fucking Ouija board that thing is.
That's
and
hilarious.
I just started laughing because it was the first time I'd ever had a polygraph examiner be honest with me, because they all tell you this is a fucking lie detector. It can tell a lie. You fucking tell a lie from miles away. I know when you're.
No, it can't.
Fuck you.
No.
No, it can't.
Give me a break.
You can lie your
It
ass
can
off.
sense sweat on your skin. It can sense your heartbeat, and it can sense your respiration.
Oh,
And now
butt
with the
clenching.
butt seat, it can sense whether you clench your asshole.
Like, oh, your butt was clenching. Yeah, I fucking.
But you know why they do that?
Whatever.
They do that to keep you from defeating the test.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's not the butt clenching isn't an indication of deception. It's an indication of countermeasures. And I won't go into it here because I don't want to give people countermeasures on the polygraph. But butt clenching has to do with someone trying to manipulate results.
So there is a movie, and I'm sure both of you and both you and Chris have seen it. It's with Christian Bale, and he's a fucking former like spec ops dude, and he's based in like LA, and he's trying to go to an LAPD, and he goes in for the poly, and he was doing fucking drugs, and so he injects shit up into his urethra for the piss test, and then he gets ready for the poly, and he's doing all sorts of crazy shit, taking crazy shit, and then he puts a tack in his shoe.
Put your tack in your shoe.
And
Yeah.
then I watched that,
Yeah.
and not even knowing what the movie was, I forget the name of it, but it was funny, and I was like, "Oh, this is a really good movie." And then I watched it, and then 5 months later, polygraph, and I was like, "Oh fuck!" Because the main question is, have you researched or do you know any measures to defeat a poly? And I was like, "Look, I'm gonna be quite honest with you. I was watching a movie with Christian Bale because I really like him from Dark Knight."
Yeah.
And this is what happened. I tried giving the whole storyline. I was like, "Look, I don't have a tack in my shoe."
Right. I didn't research it. It just was part of a movie. I didn't know.
Yeah.
It was pretty like out there, and like I can't sit here and lie because I'm gonna hit on it. And they're like,
Yeah.
"Uh-huh." I was like, "Look, I'm just being honest." And he's like,
Yeah.
"You're a liar." And I was like, "All right, cool, dude. Like this is gonna go
Yeah.
great."
See ya.
But sorry.
So,
Digress.
so Christopher, 20 years
Chris.
with your agency,
Yeah.
and I can imagine you've seen some shit.
Yeah.
It's probably been a storied career. How did you? So you fell into it, right? You didn't really choose it, which is different for it. I mean, I'm not saying I haven't heard that. I've heard that actually quite a few times where somebody's like, "Oh, somebody suggested," and I was like, "Why not?" And then I found I loved it.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah.
But for most people, I think if you were to really dig deep, a larger percentage of people, I wanted to do it all since I was a little kid. I felt called to it. I felt this, that, the other thing. And so how did you find it when you just kind of fell into it? When you got into the job, what was the most surprising and the least surprising thing for you, having had no expectations and just kind of falling into it?
The most surprising, oddly enough, that we've been talking about this was the background because, and I joke about it now that, man, it was like, how much shit am I willing to put up with to get through this? You know, it's like
Right.
constantly, hey, show up at 2:00. Okay, I get there at 2:00. Oh, we got canceled. Can you come back in 2 weeks? Okay, come back in 2 weeks. Oh, the guy had another thing. Can you come back in 4 hours? Okay,
Ugh.
so that was, and I now know that was by design. Of course, Of course,
Yeah.
I didn't know that then, but I knew that there was nothing that was ever going to stop me from going through this whole thing. So,
Yeah, they're playing with you.
oh yeah, absolutely. And had that mindset. And my friends that, I'm sure you guys are the exact same. That they went in for the first time and they failed the written and they don't go back, or they fail the push-ups like I did 4 or 5 times and then don't go back, or whatever. It was actually sit-ups, not push-ups, but neither here nor there.
Perseverance, man.
Yeah, I just I had that no quit attitude, which actually was really good in the long run because it pushed me through the rest of my career, which is as it turned out, I really needed it. So
Yeah, and that gets you to find out who really wants it and who's got the heart and who's
Yeah.
just trying to do it for a fucking paycheck.
oh yeah, definitely takes a lot of heart, man, a lot
Yeah.
of heart. So and dedication,
sure.
clearly. So
We've got a lot of listeners that have written us that are young men and women looking towards the future, and they've said, I just want to let you guys know that hearing this show has pushed me into police work, has pushed me into the fire
shit.
service, has pushed
Dude,
me
that's a
into the military.
huge compliment, man. That's awesome.
And
Oh yeah, it's great.
I just think to myself, what the fuck are we doing wrong?
yeah,
We're telling you how terrible it is. We're telling you like all the shit we go through. We're telling you, but in all honesty, like when you really hear about it, when you really when we get into these stories, you can't deny it. The job is fucking cool.
oh yeah,
Like I had this conversation with my wife the other day. I said, I miss the job. I don't miss being a cop necessarily, because being a cop entails administration, it entails paperwork, it entails being motherfucked by the public, it entails all these other things. I miss the job. I miss chasing bad guys and hooking them up and making sure they don't hurt somebody else again.
Right.
I miss looking a woman in the face and saying, yeah, I know he beat your ass and he's going to jail and you're getting a restraining order and he's not coming back. You know, I miss those moments. I miss
in California. Those days are gone.
Well,
yeah, I
mean,
So
unless you're a
that's the
communist,
thing.
which they all
The
are.
job has changed in a lot of places, and it just it will swing the other way eventually. I just don't know what it's going to take. I don't know what the tipping point is.
I was in physical therapy this week. Like I am every week, but a physical therapist. And I had a conversation while he was massaging my leg, and I was telling him stuff about work and how jacked up I am, and how the doctor's like, nah, your knee's done, you're done, like whatever. And I was like, all right. And then so we got into talking about what I do for work, and he already knew. And then he started asking more, and I started telling him, and he goes, you know what it kind of sounds like? I go, what? And he goes, it kind of sounds like you guys are guilty before proven innocent, and everybody else is innocent until proven guilty. And I'm like, yeah, that's basically how it is. For sure. Like all the criminals we arrest are innocent until proven guilty. Like just like on cops in the opening letter.
Fucking asshole, racist, fuck ups
guilty.
Who,
exactly. And they will not think twice. Like certain places, and there's some really good agencies out there. And I'm not dogging on the men and women who bust their ass every day that are the fucking working class of law enforcement patrol. You guys are fucking awesome. Keep doing the hard work. Keep doing the Lord's work. But there are agencies out there that really would rather try to get ahead of something than back their officers and do a full and complete investigation. And they'd rather just put them out high and dry. And then next thing you know, they get vindicated and everything gets adjudicated. And they're like, oh, I guess you didn't do anything wrong. We'll give you the money later.
Yeah, because you print the retraction on the last page of the paper, not the first.
It's bullshit. And,
that
sucks.
Answer this for me. So without naming any agencies, but how is it that they go back and reopen investigations that have already been closed, particularly like officer involved shootings and stuff like that?
Well, you have a DA called Gascon.
that was actually in a place that might rhyme with Phoenix, maybe. I'm not sure, but so yeah, they've been doing that a lot lately, where they open up these investigations that have been 2 years, done and passed all stuff, and they're good to go, and then they reopen them for whatever reason. And how do you do that? I mean, holy shit, it's insane.
And those officers already went through all that turmoil and struggle of having to deal with pulling a fucking trigger on a human life. They've had to deal with getting shot at, and that fucking incident that caused them so much traumatic stress after the fact. Because during, you're like, you have so much adrenaline, you're like, I don't know what the fuck just happened. Like, I knew that dude tried to kill me, and I fucking had to do what I had to do, and shit happened. And then next thing you know, the next week, the next month, the next year, the next lifetime, the officers are dealing with that stress. And then next thing you know, they're like, all right, cool, fucking adjudicated, I'm good to go. I know I didn't do anything wrong. And now it's just been fucking proven that I didn't do anything wrong. And then you have someone who reopens that, and they have no idea what that is doing to the officers that had to be put in that position where they had to make that ultimate call. And I think that's a good segue into.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And God bless the Peace Officers Bill of Rights. It's probably one of the only things California ever did right by law enforcement.
And I have that in my pocket right now.
So there are so many agencies and so many states that don't have that. And that was a shocker to me, is that there are so many.
That in my wallet.
Yeah. So for those of you that don't know what we're talking about, look up what the California POBAR, or Peace Officers Bill of Rights, was that California passed. It was one of the only times California ever did right by its coppers in modern history, and it really does codify the rights you have against retaliation for unpopular, it recognizes that you're going to have to do unpopular shit and protects you from retaliation for it.
Wow.
So it's really good. But that being said, all the shit we have to go through as cops that we've just discussed really does segue into Chris's story. So Chris, the floor is yours, man. Go ahead. Tell us your story.
Rock and roll. If I can, go ahead and make my dedication now, or do you want to wait?
No, we'll do it at the end.
At the end. Okay, very good. Very good. Okay. I'll start with my first critical incident, first major critical incident. Back in 2000, long story short, I'll save the big story for toward the middle.
Got it.
long story short, this guy's had 3 felony warrants, crashed a stolen car, was in the middle of stealing another car with a big, huge throwing knife. Ultimately, ended up kicked the window of this other car that he was sitting in. He pulled a gun. I fired 2 shots and put him down. So, which, as it turned out, wasn't that big of a deal. I mean, in all reality, I had 2 years on, brand spanking new, and I was like, okay.
That's a big deal for 2 years on.
It was then. I mean, as I look back on it, and it was very. There was nothing easy about it, not gonna lie. However, what made it really easy for me was recognizing that, dude, it's either me or you. You're gonna pull a gun. I said it this way during the investigation. You fuck with the wrong guy, and you lost.
Right.
And I have no problem with that whatsoever. The problem that I had actually was after the fact when the media said that, Officer Hoyer executed a Mexican national. I'm like, well, here's the problem.
That was in 2000.
Yeah, but the guy was
Shit.
the guy was Aryan Brotherhood. I'm like, pretty sure those guys don't mix. Just saying. So yeah,
Totally
But-
different spectrums.
yeah. But the fact
Northern Mexico is in the United States.
yeah, right, yeah. But the fact that they said I executed this guy, I'm like, well,
Right.
he pulled a gun, I defended my life, and I took him out. That's pretty much what it was. So,
Right.
and so that was 2000. So fast forward, 2013. This was pretty much right in the heart of where I started working, and then so we get out to the West Valley, and we're coming back from out of town, if you will, heading back toward downtown. Hot call comes out of a stolen truck. Long story short, we end up chasing this guy for about 35 minutes or so. Not us. We pretty much, a couple guys lit him up. Guy took off. He ended up ramming 3 semi trucks, almost tried to take them out, clearly. Ran 20 other cars, including like 4 or 5 patrol cars and a motorcycle. It was pretty bad.
A lot of charges.
And for the record, for the listeners, this guy's good to get shot right now. As of what
Oh yeah,
Chris is describing,
Escape of a violent fleeing felon.
he is
absolutely. Oh yeah.
he that car is a deadly weapon. Make no
Well,
mistake.
yeah.
The first one he tried to take out, which freaked me out, and I told my partner, I said, Scotty, we're going to shoot this guy, sure as shit. 70 miles an hour at a 45-degree angle hits the back of a tanker truck in order to try to roll it and flip it over, which was clearly what he wanted to do. Fortunately, the driver was heads up and hit the gas. I mean, he pretty much jackknifed the truck, but luckily the guy was heads up, like I said, hit the gas, right in the trailer, and he was back in business. And my eyes are like this big on, holy shit, I'm driving. And
Like saucer plates.
oh my god,
Oh my
right?
God.
You should see the driver of the truck. He
Pucker
was like,
factor.
"Ah!" So of course then he
The
got
cartoon
like
with the eyes come out.
yeah, it's like 20 patrol cars flying by this guy now. So clearly we were going after this dude.
Right.
But when I started getting freaked out later on during this whole mess was we're coming long country. And I can see it's like open fields, and all I can see is a school bus coming southbound as we're heading east. And I'm like, oh,
Well, you
shit.
cut out a little bit. You're on a long country road, and all you could see coming down the country road was a school bus.
School bus, yeah,
Oh.
yeah. And we're heading east. The school bus is heading
Shit.
south. And luckily, the driver was heads up again, and she pulled over. We blew through that intersection at like 85 miles an hour. I wasn't going that fast because I recognized this was 13, so I had whatever amount of time on then. So I decided to slow down. I'm like, all right, you know what? There was like 8 guys in front of me. I said, I'm just going to hang back. And when all the carnage happens, when he starts rolling his truck and taking out all these patrol cars, we'll be there to kind of clean up the mess, if you will.
It's
The guy goes,
experience.
Yeah.
a little bit, yeah. And some
Wisdom.
fear. No bullshit. There was some fear. in
15
there.
years of experience, right?
And I was freaking out. I was like, holy shit, this is a bad day. So he keeps on going, and then he decides he's just going to flip a bitch and come back around. He goes head on with a patrol car. Another, he's driving a flatbed Ford F550, which is a big ass truck, of course. He goes head on with a Tahoe, and that officer actually put a round right through his windshield with his rifle, and right straight through and missed a guy somehow. I don't
Oh,
know.
shit.
Yeah. And he ended up launching that patrol car back into a ditch. They had to extract the officer out of there. It was a mess just on that. So we got one.
So the officer who was driving, or did he have a partner who pulled his rifle, or was the officer who was driving armed himself with his rifle and then racked one through the fucking
Yeah.
window?
He was solo by
Oh,
himself that day.
Atta
Yeah.
boy.
Dude,
And when I
that
talked to
is
him on the
gunslinger
scene,
shit.
dude, he was fucking pissed. He's like, he had a really nasty headache, of course, as you can imagine.
Right.
I mean, I don't care how much training you go through. you crank off a rifle inside a patrol car, that's going to be fucking loud. And I'm
Oh
sure
yeah.
it was. So
Yes.
anyway, like I said, they had to extract the guy out, and then there was two other detectives. As they see this, they open fire on the guy. He keeps on going. So now I had stopped about maybe a quarter mile back, and when I saw him making his U-turn, I just stopped. And so we get out of the car, and I'm telling you, it's like wide open, no place to go. I mean, not even a freaking tree to stand behind.
It's the end of
And
7.
yeah,
Desert.
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, it's
It was
the end of
insane.
7.
Got a
So-
yucca
Power
bush.
lines and dirt.
Yeah, and I mean just open field as far as
Yep.
the eye can see. So here comes the guy flying back down the road, and as it turned out, my buddy he gets out and he's standing by a street sign, and I was standing by another street sign further back, of course, by the driver's side door, and we had the same exact plan. We talked about it later. He goes, when he hits that pole, he's mine. So when he hit that pole, we estimated about 28 yards away, between 45 and 50 miles an hour. My Scotty put 7 rifle rounds to his door. When he got to me, probably a second and a half later, I put 9 rounds to his door.
So you
with a
guys
rifle.
went perpendicular and started tracking him
Right,
and
exactly.
dumping rounds
Right.
into him. God
Which
damn,
was-
what's funny is as you're telling this story and I'm thinking about the terrain, I'm thinking, okay, I got to parallel this guy and then come perpendicular so that when he comes past him, I can put rounds on him from a
Yeah.
perpendicular.
Right.
Like it just naturally occurred to me. And then you tell me that I'm like, oh yeah, perfect. Fuck it. Yeah, good.
which fortunately worked out good. Had the guy turned toward us, we would have been fucking done. I mean, there was
Yeah.
no place for us to go. You know,
Right.
So you guys
Well, at that
staggered
point,
off.
there's no place for anybody
Yeah.
to go.
You guys,
Yeah, at that
you guys staggered off in a good column formation, and then
Right,
were able to open fire onto him.
Yeah, and we just happened to get lucky, and it was funny because Scotty, he never liked like the half and half drills where you do 10 rounds in 10 seconds, and then 10 rounds in 5 seconds, and then 10 rounds in 2.5 seconds. He always thought that was useless. He goes, "This is a 75-yard Walmart parking lot weapon system," and I'm like, "Dude, no, this is a gunfighting machine." And sure as shit,
Yeah.
after that, he figured it out. He's like, "Yeah, fucking A, man, I'm glad we had enough firepower to start putting this guy down." So
Yeah.
um,
There comes a point where there's a difference between precision and volume.
oh yeah,
And
yeah.
you do have to know when the time to be precise is and when the time to provide volume is.
Yep. Oh yeah.
And this is a volume part precision, but this is a volume because it's a moving vehicle, and
Yeah.
it's very hard to be precise. And
Very
there's
hard to
people
be
out there that would
precise.
be like, okay, well, an M16 is a precision weapon system. Okay, it's a precision weapon system, but you've got a vehicle bearing down on you. It's already taken rounds. It's rammed people off the road. It's tried to kill people.
You're
with
shooting
a
through
deadly
glass.
weapon.
You're shooting through steel.
Exactly. You're going to
Yeah.
have to provide ample amount of fucking rounds. You're going to have to do, not failure drills, but hammer pairs where it's
Right.
same site picture 2 rounds, same site picture
Right.
2 rounds, same site picture 2 rounds.
Right.
And that's what you have to do.
You have to put the bullets where you think he's going to be and hope that one of them hits him.
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, it was fortunate that what we did was, and this sounds kind of crazy, and I don't know, I'm not even going to try to talk about the ballistic side of things, but I've seen it happen before on a couple of different scenes, and the last scene I'll talk about happened again. I don't know if it happened on this one, but when those rounds hit that door, I actually turned them into ball rounds because that tiny little hollow point filled up
Yeah.
with that metal, and it just started tearing shit up, which was awesome. The guy coasted about another 250 yards up the road. And we were able to drag the guy out of the truck, and he was 6'6", 260 pounds, kind of a bigger, heavier guy, of course. And we finally got the guy on the ground. He ended up dying later on at the hospital, my understanding. But you put fucking that many rounds into a dude, you hope for the best, I guess. What else
I don't know,
can you do?
6'6", 260? That's like Jack Reacher numbers. And I'm going to tell you right now, we've had a story on this show. People who have listened to the show for long enough or want to go back and hear it. We had a copper, Elliot. You guys know him as Elliot or Salty back in the day, John's father. He put rounds in a guy's chest and the guy into his center mass, but his pecs were so dense that none of the bullets penetrated the rib cage. They all were
Oh my
embedded
God.
in his pecs.
Dude, I had one where the guy was similar in stature. 5 rounds from an M16.
Mhm.
Survived.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it
I
was
got a
touch and
story.
go. We really good trauma center saved him, but
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
he took 5 fucking rounds on M16. Hip, stomach, chest, back, groin, and anybody else would have would have been, DOA. Like,
Yeah,
this
bullets
dude,
do
he
weird
made
shit.
it.
Let's just
They
yeah.
do. Oh yeah.
And, ooh,
Yeah.
I saw a
it's just
dude.
crazy.
I saw a dude, no bullshit, a 223 right in the neck and survived. And that was after they fired. I think they fired 18 rounds. They had 10 hits, 7 exit wounds, including one right. I mean, swear to God, right inside the neck, and the guy freaking survives. So
I went to a class called I'm Shot, and it was the first 4 hours. It was an 8-hour seminar. The first 4 hours were 4 officers, each had an hour apiece. In fact, who knows? This may be subconsciously the inspiration for this show. But the first 4 hours of the seminar were 4 different officers that had an hour apiece to come up and talk to a room full of cops about how they were shot and came back and survived and killed the fucking bad guy.
good.
And then lunch break.
Warrior
And the
mindset.
second 4 hours were a shrink who came in and talked about how their mindset enabled them to do that and how to create that mindset in yourself. But one of those stories, I mean, aside from, if you look her up, her name is Stacy Lim. Stacy Lim got followed home by a dirtbag.
Badass.
I remember that story.
LAPD.
Yeah, LA.
She got followed home by a dirtbag, got center punched by a 357.
Yep.
And as she's dying in the driveway, she puts rounds into the kid that followed her home to kill her. And then she died twice in the operating table. Yeah. And anyway, but
I met her one time. She's amazing. Oh my God.
Great.
She lives.
Man.
I've met her as well. And
she lived.
She is her
mind, man. When the chief of LAPD walked into her room after she was out of surgery and awake, he said, "Write your own ticket. You can go anywhere you want." She says, "I want to go back to my division."
No shit. Good for her.
You know what's crazy about the warrior mindset? I'm going to put this up real quick. The warrior mindset. We have Stacy Lim, gets shot, fatal wounds, fucking provides fire, puts down assholes, and she subsequently lives because she has that warrior mindset.
Yep.
Then you have people who get shot, like let's say in the hand or the leg or whatever.
Just leave me, man. I can't make it.
I'm not talking about like a femoral injury, and I'm not trying to say like whatever, but it's a warrior mindset, and there is such a thing as called shock, and shock can kill. And you get hit and say like a non-fatal wound, like in the leg or the hand or the arm, and it's non-fatal, but you think you're going to die, you put yourself into shock, and shock is what kills you. Mm-hmm. And so it's that warrior mindset that keeps you going. Like, I'm not fucking dying. There's been dudes who shot in the neck, face, fucking arm from moral injury. Right. And not too long ago, there was Houston PD. I think it was Houston PD. And we saw it, and everyone judged this officer starts taking rounds on a pursuit when the car TCs, and that's traffic collision for other people, TA, traffic accident, whatever, car crashes, the suspect starts putting rounds on the officer. Actually, you see him take off running from the vehicle, fucking boom, I'm fucking gone, right? Everyone's like, oh, fuck that guy. He didn't stay and fight. Video comes out. He has a fucking serious wound in the arm. He has to apply a tourniquet. He gets a tourniquet put on. Someone helps him put a tourniquet on, and that's what saved his life. And that's that warrior mindset that, like, fuck, I need to get this fixed now. I need to get out of the fucking, the area of operation, the AO, and I need to get to a safe place so I can apply a tourniquet so I don't fucking die. And so my partner doesn't have to, exactly. And so my partner doesn't have to try to save my life and then get killed. And, it's those types of things that it's that warrior mindset. And the crazy thing about ballistics is that we were just talking, and Tom was talking about bullets do crazy fucking things, is that we actually had someone on the show, BC White official, Brandon White. He was on the show and he talked about his time in Arizona as a police officer, and then the Route 91. And we had him on the show, and he had been involved in numerous critical incidents and saw an actual incident that unfolded where an M16 had fired a round. An officer fired an M16 round, struck a suspect one time in like the shoulder, killed him. Boom, done. Wow. One shot. Okay. Lights out. Awesome. And so, and you hear stories about people taking 5, 6, 8 rounds and they live. And it's crazy. You hear stories about people taking a headshot and living. Yeah. And I actually know someone who took a headshot.
Me too.
They didn't kill the guy. The guy presents what looks like a weapon, acts like it's a weapon. Officers fire right in the face. Suspect fucking lives. Now is missing half his head. Crazy as shit. Looks crazy.
Zombie.
Dude lived. And that's just the crazy things about ballistics and the body, and it's
Well, so
absolutely crazy.
Yeah, that's what I was going to mention before I started getting sidetracked on Stacy Lim. Is one of the guys that told this story. He told this story about a Walmart parking lot incident where a guy was shoplifting with his girlfriend from Walmart. They hooked the girlfriend up. The guy's already out in the parking lot waiting for her. He's a fucking skinhead. He piece of shit skinhead comes back. Guy's taking the girlfriend to the car. Guy's, he takes the guy to the car, hooks him up. The guy fucking stabs him in the hand, destroys his hand, shoots him. Like, all hell breaks loose, right? The guy, at one point, the suspect ends up inside the police car in the front seat. And the officer has his gun hand destroyed by the altercation, by getting shot. And he has the police explorer helping him hold his gun in his left hand and supporting it for him so he can lay rounds at this guy as he's trying to get the AR out of the rack inside the police car. So his hand's destroyed. The frickin' explorer's holding up his gun hand as his offhand, where his gun is now, as his support hand, because he can't use his support hand. And he starts laying around. Puts the first round. The guy looks at him through the window, puts the first round as he's trying to get this AR out, right in the center of his forehead. Boom. 40 caliber, right in the center of his forehead. Guy goes down, right? Disappears. Pops back up 2 seconds later with the hole in the center of his forehead. And starts going for the rifle round again, and then turns around. So then he shoots another round. This round shoots him in the ass. But that round was a Texas headshot. And for those of you who don't know what a fucking Texas headshot is, it's when you put a round right through somebody's asshole as they're bending over and send it straight up into their heart. Right? That's the round that killed him. The one that got him in the ass. The one that got him in the forehead bisected his cranium, went around the skull, and exited out the back without ever penetrating into the brain tissue.
I've seen that.
Bullets do weird shit. Anyway,
Chris,
so your guy,
that?
how many rounds did you put in this guy?
I put 9, and
9.
Scotty put 7. I don't know how many other guys from the detective side put. The one officer straight through the windshield, he missed. I mean, dead center, right through, but the guy moved out of the way.
Right,
like 30 rounds plus, maybe.
Probably, yeah, something like that.
Wow.
So.
And you have another story, yeah?
Yeah, this was my ultimately my career-ending gunfight toward the end, because all the other ones, for guys who
all
don't
the
know,
other ones.
yeah, I know. It sounds kind of crazy to say it this way. In fact, technically my first was a dog back in '99, which is shoot a person, shoot people. I don't care. Dogs, they don't know any better.
No,
horrible about that.
Yeah.
Dude, I've seen
I mean,
that.
I
It's
could never
fucking
be an
horrible.
ATF agent.
Oh my god.
I'm just kidding. I know some great ATF agents. It's just a funny joke.
Oh, yeah.
We do. Yes, we do.
We do.
So what I was an instructor. I got my first instructorship in 05 for firearms, rifle in 2012, and started carrying the rifle in 2010. But I didn't know the difference, as stupid as it sounds, between a gunfight and a shooting.
Yeah.
And you would think, oh, it should be pretty obvious. And you think, okay, like in the next story, you put X amount of rounds into a guy, and you think it's going to be over with, and then the guy starts shooting back at you. You're like, oh, shit, now this is a gunfight. Holy fuck, who knew?
Yeah. Shooting somebody is a shooting. Taking rounds back at you in response to your rounds is a gunfight.
Yeah, and where do you think I learned that shit? On the street during the gunfight. I'm like, and I never used the words I should have, but that was one thing that I failed to recognize until it was too late. Just miraculously, somehow the guy missed. I don't know how he missed me, but I'll get into the meat and potatoes of that thing when we get there. So
yeah, well, go ahead.
But so this thing started May 18, 2016, south part of the valley, and it's just a garden variety radio call. Nothing big. It's a suicidal subject. Basically kicked in Dad's door and stole Dad's gun. Okay. And so he gets on the phone and says basically he wants to shoot out cops, which you guys have probably heard this 100 times. I'm like, okay, yeah, you're never going back, whatever.
Okay.
And I talked
You'd
about
never take me alive.
Oh yeah, and I mean, how often does that really happen? Where they
A lot.
they meet a formidable enemy and they usually cower.
Yeah.
What I
All the
talk
time.
about are the guys that just don't say anything and they just give you that 1,000-yard stare. Those are the guys that scare me.
Those are the guys that scare me, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Quiet ones, yep.
So, I was not at all any shape or form complacent whatsoever. But I'm thinking, okay, I've been on the scene 1,000 times, no big deal, The area that I worked is exceptionally violent. Side note to the whole thing, we had 7 officer-involved shootings within a 7-week period. 2 were officers getting shot and injured. 1 was killed.
Whoa.
4 out of 7 were
Damn.
ambushes, and 5 of them were in the area that I worked. So, I mean, that
But
was
can I
5 of the 7 were all in your area.
correct.
can I
Yes,
pause for a second?
absolutely.
Was one of those officers, because there was an officer who was involved in a fucking gunfight
Hmm.
and was shot in the neck. Was that Arizona where he was holding his neck and he was providing rounds downrange and redeployed to a better location and was putting rounds downrange? Was that in Arizona?
There's one I saw that was actually here in San Diego years ago.
Was that San Diego?
Yeah, there was.
I swear I thought that was
Anyway.
Arizona.
Yeah,
anyways.
and it happens. I mean, it just happened a couple to 3 weeks ago here.
Yeah. I mean, it happens a
saw it.
lot.
Just saw the video. The guy just walks up to the door. The guy freaking opens fire on him. You know. with
Yeah.
another
Yeah,
story.
we posted that. It just, hey, come on in. Yeah, come on. Blam, blam, blam.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. I just saw that video today. In fact, I was talking to a buddy of mine that still works there, and it's a disaster. of
If
course,
you don't know
but-
what we're talking about, go on our Instagram feed, war_stories_official or war stories official. Just search it. You can see the video. You'll see what an ambush looks like.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, it's probably like 40 videos down. You'll see it.
I mean, we do post a lot of those videos because you guys like them.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
So I was on a specialty squad, proactive neighborhood enforcement team. So it was 2:30 in the afternoon. I was thinking I'm just going to route up my day, hit the station, and the call comes out. And what they did was they called for a scout. And for guys that don't know, I was closed that day, so they wanted somebody plain clothes to go down there and check out the house. Well, fuck yeah, it's 2:30. I still got time to get into something. So you know, this is my
Boy,
mentality.
howdy.
Right? 18 years on and still hungry to get into it, you know, and
Yeah.
careful what you wish for. So I shot down there. It took me about close to 15 minutes to get down to the area. And unfortunately, in the meantime, there was very little information coming out on the radio. They didn't really have much. So the dispatcher was heads up. She sent the dad over to the Safeway down the street. So all the troops rallied over to the Safeway, except for me, of course. So I show up on the scene, and it's now Wednesday at about pushing 2:45-ish, give or take. And nothing
And you're
going
plain
on.
clothes.
I'm plain clothes, yeah.
Right. Okay.
So
I
I'm
have a
driving
feeling that's
actually
important.
driving a hot rod, undercover Jeep, which was like, shit, okay, that's cool. Jeep Wrangler, which is
Right.
pretty neat. So, I mean, very, very unsuspecting. So nobody's ever going to think that's So I drive down to the house, and there's a van in the driveway. What I didn't know was that the front door had been kicked in, but you couldn't see it because there was a palm tree right in the front of the door. So I couldn't tell what it was, so I didn't put that information. So I didn't have it. So I go by, said, I got a van in the driveway, no movement. Came back, parked on the opposite side of the street, and just watched. In the meantime, I'm gearing up, getting all my shit on, and I'm putting out information, which is, again, just nothing. I said, I've got no foot traffic, I've got no vehicle traffic, I've got no movement whatsoever. And I've been doing this shit. I've been doing that particular job on the net team for 14 years. I knew I knew what I was doing. But even for the trained eye, there was nothing to see. I mean, literally nothing to see. And it was extremely frustrating as it turned out. So looking back on it a couple of years later, I thought, man, it sure was. It was Wednesday at 3:00 almost in the afternoon. There was nothing going on. There was no foot traffic, time of day with school kids running around and stuff, nothing. And this is before we locked it down. So get on the radio for the final time, said, hey, I got nothing going on. So the troops start to rally. So 2 cars passed me, 2 patrol cars passed me, and then I moved up to what ended up being my ultimate stopping point, if you will. 2 other cars parked and blocked the street to the north. Those other 2 cars that passed me blocked the street to the south. 2 cars parked on the opposite side of the street where the house is. And the idea was that we were going to just do a surround and call out. Okay, makes sense.
Sure.
We had already
Right.
called
Especially
for,
with no movement,
exactly right.
Yeah.
Now we had
Lock
already
down
called
the
for
area and then get everybody out.
We had 270-degree coverage around the front of the house. Plus, we had guys to the back. We had a whole bunch of guys from my unit, not my squad, but my unit. We had a bunch of FTOs out there. We had a shit ton of experience.
Yeah, a perimeter and call them out is not fun, but it's safe and it's good.
It was safe,
Right,
and we had
exactly.
a good plan in place. We had our SWAT team on standby. They're out there working out, doing whatever they're doing. Had a K9 en route, and we had a helicopter en route. So we had all the resources that were
You were
notified.
doing it by
properly.
the numbers. Yep.
Absolutely, across the
This
board,
is
we had everything
by the book.
And so, of course, Murphy decides he's going to come and kick us in the ass right at the wrong time. So, shocker there. But so it's one of those things where we get questioned about it. But unfortunately, since we lost an officer, nobody wants to give us too much grief about it. Which I want that feedback because I want to make sure we don't do this shit wrong in the future.
Right.
But I've picked this thing apart so many times that I can't. We could have done any we did. Because the first thing is, well, we know the guy wants to shoot out with the cops. Are we gonna let this guy go mobile? Time's not on our side for this particular situation.
Right.
So introduce Dave Glasser. He's with his partner Ryan Lee. They pull up, and Dave decides he's going to end the conga line the way it worked out.
Black and white in uniform?
He's in a Mark Harden. He's wearing the
Okay.
exact same thing I am. Plain clothes, but outer carrier.
Oh, okay.
So jeans and a t-shirt and an outer carrier, but in a marked car. So he decides he's going to pull up behind the van. And a lot of guys are giving grief for that. They're like, why are we in the van? You don't know where we're at and blah, blah, blah. I said, well, again, do we want to gunfight or are we going to try to block this guy's escape?
Right.
And it was one of those last second decisions. It wasn't planned. He just made the decision on his own, which I thought was pretty sound tactic considering we don't have all the toys attack guys do. We're on our own pretty much.
Right.
So as they're pulling up, just take a guess where you think the guy is.
He's in the van.
Right.
He's in the fucking van, right? And
Yeah.
I was out there by myself watching for 13 minutes, watching that house, watching that van, and never saw him, which was
He's right in the front the whole
right.
time.
He was laying back like this,
Yeah,
kind
exactly.
of just laying in wait for us, and he knew exactly what his plan was going to be, and it was one of those things where he got the luckiest shot you could ever possibly get in a million years. So as soon as they roll up, they recognize, oh shit, because they can see him in the rearview mirror now in the side view. They're like, oh shit, we think he's in the van. They didn't even have a chance to put out on the radio. So as Dave's getting out of the car, dude opens the door, reaches back, and fires 3 rounds. First round goes through Dave's door, touches him below the knee. The second round goes into a patrol car parked across the street. Third round catches Dave's A-pillar right on the corner, and then they think split in two and caught Dave right in the head, and he was lights out. He was dead before he hit the ground. So all the guys that had that cover on the north and west side, if you will, opened fire. So meantime, I'm getting out of my car, walk around to the back, got 15 out, got my car, I'm all good to go. Battle. I'm covering on the south side of the house. That's my sector of fire. That's where I need to be watching for. I got all these other guys on the other side. They're good to go.
Right.
And so, again, Murphy decides he's going to wait till I'm out in the middle of the fucking road before the gunfight starts, or the gun at that point. So I do. I can't figure out where the guy's at in that 0.2 of a second or whatever it is. So I come up on target and decide I'm going to put some rounds through the middle of his window in the van because I can clearly see he's not over by the house. He's not standing outside. The most likely place he's going to be is inside that van.
Right.
So,
and that's where the rounds came from. You might as well put rounds back.
Well, I didn't know that. I couldn't see where from my vantage
Oh,
point.
really?
Yeah. Where
Okay.
I was,
So from your vantage point, you couldn't even see what had just happened.
No, not at all.
Oh.
And I'm just so thankful I didn't actually see Dave go down because that's a whole nother fight. So
Yeah.
Well, that's textbook cover fire. You
Yeah,
put
yeah.
rounds where the last rounds were known coming from.
right.
You light that area up so that you can move to a better vantage point.
Well,
Right.
that was a great plan to begin with. But then, what do you think the first mistake I made? Now I've been an instructor for how many years now? Since 2012, 2016 now. So all these years, all this time on the range, all this tactics I've been teaching and shit. Well, keeping in mind, I'm still used to getting into a shooting, not a gunfight. So I estimated somewhere between 7 and 10 rounds of rifle into his middle window of his car. It's a minivan. And the very first thing I do, which we tell guys, I know you guys know this, what do you tell you guys on the rifle range? Don't count your rounds. Don't look for your holes. First thing I fucking do is I come off target and I drop the muzzle.
Ooh.
And I mean, I know that. I fucking know to do that shit. And that's what do you think happens? Bam, the guy starts shooting back at me. I actually heard and felt the rounds go past my head so close. I was like, holy shit. Caught me off guard. I jumped from one end of the street to another on some kind of like a half-ass back up for that second ball. I estimated somewhere around rounds for that second ball for a total of 22. And
I'm going to have you back up and say all that again because you just got real robotic and cut out. So you're telling me that you came down off the target like you knew you weren't supposed to.
Well, it wasn't such a huge. I mean, not
Yeah,
muzzle
but
down, but
you didn't go to low
definitely
ready, but you just dropped for a half a
correct.
second and just took that breath to look,
Right.
and that's when he
And
came
count
up.
rounds. Yeah.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And so he came up, and then what happened? Because that all cut out.
Oh, so he came up, fired those 3 rounds. I actually heard and felt the rounds go past my head by centimeters. I mean, it was like right there.
Right. You feel the
3 rounds.
air.
Which side note to that? So Dave took 3 rounds, caught 2. I took 3 rounds, caught 0. Clearly, the survivor's guilt was fucking
Oh,
astronomical
through the roof.
forever for that. So
Fuck.
I move off to the side. Now I'm squared up, and for guys that haven't been involved in a critical incident or that have much more experience than I do, I'm doing that thing that you see so often where it's like bang, 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 coming up on target.
Walking your rounds up. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. So
Yeah.
I fed, which actually worked out really good for me because those first 3 rounds went through the door. My 4th round got stopped by the mechanics in the door, and then that 5th round was when I started moving forward. I started walking forward, and a lot of people are like, "Why the hell would you start walking forward?" And I realized, and trying to stay as far away from the heroics as I can, is that this guy's going to kill me if I don't take the fight to him. I got to fucking put this guy down as quickly as I can, and if I just stand here like I did last time, he's going to fucking shoot me and kill me. So I got to do something dynamic than that. So
He made you angry.
Right.
oh, dude. Well, for you guys, so I got my red, not magnified, to patrol rifle optic, aim
Like
point.
an aim point or EOTech or something. Yeah.
Exactly. So that honestly, that first volley, I didn't see anything in that front sight or the dot or anything.
Right.
That next round, that dot was about that fucking big, and I
Mhm.
equate that purely to rage because it was one of those things. And I said, I'm like, "Oh, you motherfucker, you just tried to shoot me." So came back up, basically, ultimately finished him off with that second volley. And then from there, so if you can imagine, I'm facing northeast. Then I'm facing directly north. Then I go over to the patrol car because I'm not going to stand out there in the open still. So I get over to the patrol car, and now I'm looking directly east. I can't quite see what I need to see. And the thing that I teach all the time that I never do on the range, the one where I kind of made up for the lack of the last one, was I actually looking around checking my world, and I see an officer standing behind me who I now know took those same 3 rounds that I did and missed, and he's standing there in battle shock, just completely lights out.
Right.
Oh yeah, you gotta move.
Well, he's another rifle operator, TO, squared away, and he was just locked up. I screamed at him. I said, "Hey man, get back in the fucking fight." And we talked about it extensively later on. He's like, "Man, that's exactly what I needed in the fight." I'm like, "All right." So he covers down the sector of fire. I can't see what I need to see from the passenger side door, so I move around to the other side. I meet the sergeant at the time. We have a little exchange. He starts walking up toward the van, and I'm thinking, "What the fuck is this guy doing?" I've got the rifle. I'm much better to handle this, whatever this is. You're a supervisor. Go back and handle this, whatever it is over here.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as he's walking up past Dave's car, I recognize that he's not stopping, and I'm like, what's this guy doing? So I grabbed onto him, and we literally got into a physical fight right in the driveway. And I had to overpower him and pull him back out, launched him forward, gave him the worst impact. I felt bad about it at the time, but talking
It happens.
to him, he had no recollection of that whatsoever. I go,
Oh
"Dude,
yeah, fog
what
of
the
war,
fuck
dude.
was that?" He goes, "What are you talking about?" I go, "You dude trying to walk up to the van." He goes, "No, I didn't." But you did, man. I'm not making this shit up. He goes, "Well, the only thing I could think of was I was going to go execute the guy," which I don't have a huge problem with, but clearly we're still not safe. We don't know what's still going on and so forth.
He was angry.
He was extremely angry. He's still struggling with that whole thing too. 6 years later.
Yep.
So, so I get my position, and God bless Grossman if you guys are Dave Grossman fans.
Oh yeah.
One of his biggest fans. So first time I ever saw Dave back in 2003, I learned something that I still do today, to this day, all the time, was that tactical breathing. Took that first
Right.
good combat breath, did the fastest magazine exchange I've ever done. Did make another kind of a minor mistake. I didn't retain the mag. I threw it on the front seat of the car because I just thought, I've got 2 full mags. I don't have to worry about that extra round, that extra
Right.
mag, whatever else. So,
There's 2 rounds left in it or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
but see, I think I had or whatever. But the good thing, I had pre-planned, and all that time I spent on the rifle range, I realized that I had my mag on my vest, and every time I tried to go do an exchange, I couldn't get to them because the flap was in the way. So it was no shit. Just a couple of weeks before this thing happened, I sewed a piece of Velcro on the top of the vest, and when I flipped it up, it stuck. So I was able to get that new mag out, and it was fucking beautiful. It was perfect, just the way it's supposed to be.
You will fight like you train.
Well, and
Amazing.
that's one of those things where I preached about it all the time, and then I
Yeah.
did, and I never put that piece together until right before I like desperately needed it. So,
Yeah.
got the mag in there, and now I still can't see the bad guy. I'm like, fuck, all right. So this is when one of the other officers comes up behind me and says, and I'm calling for help on the radio. And nobody knew that was me because now my voice is like 3 octaves higher than normal. And they all thought it was me because I was the first one out there. And then I did clear again. And when I finally did clear again, they didn't know it was me. So neither here nor there. But so I'm asking for help, which I didn't normally do. I'm just going to just take care of it, whatever it is. So I'm asking for help, not getting the help, and I'm pissed off. And then I find out, well, now they've extricated Dave across the street. They're working on him. And so they sent me another officer for backup. And I said, dude, what the fuck's going on? He goes, yeah, Dave was shot. I don't know what's going on. They're working on him. And then that's when my fear and anxiety started kicking in. I'm like, okay, this is
The
one of those
reality
things.
is starting to set in.
It is, yeah. And now it's one of those things where now I've got to think. Now I've got to, fuck, and now I can't give up. I want to just take off, run, and go home the other way, but clearly I can't do that. So,
Right. There's a difference
um,
between reacting and thinking.
oh
And
yeah, oh,
reacting is easier.
well, that was
Like 100%. Reacting is easier.
yeah,
When you're trained to react, you do it, and then
yeah,
you think about it. Eat your food and taste it later. You just do it.
yeah. My first three, that's exactly what it was. That's why I didn't
Yeah.
know the difference between a gunfight and a shooting, because
Yeah.
so now I've got to think, and it's like, oh shit, all right,
Right? Because you thought it
so,
was done, and you're like, "Oh fuck, let me see how many rounds I shot."
exactly, you're right.
And next thing you know, you're like,
Yep.
"Oh shit, it's not over."
And if I could show you guys a picture of my rifle, I would. I mean, you carry a rifle like that, you're like, hell yeah, dude, I'm lights out. There's no fucking way anybody's going to defeat this thing. Yeah. And then you very quickly figure out how disciplined you are when it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And so, very, very, very fortunately, I was forward thinking still at this point in time. And so I had the officer said, hey, man, do me a favor, because I still didn't have good cover. I couldn't see what I needed to see. I said, grab a Tahoe and put it in the driveway to the north. So he does, comes back about 2 minutes later. And so I said, hey, man, just cover me while we move around the other side. So I stayed on target, moved around to the other side. So now, I went from northeast to north to east. Now the other side, now I'm directly facing south. And I'm I estimated about 12 yards away. And now I can see the guy as clear as day. He's sitting in the driver's side of the van. He's basically, and throw my arms up on the hood of the Tahoe. And luckily the shot never came, but now I'm sitting there and I mean I'm fucking lights out. My world's just going like this, just shrinking, shrinking, shrinking.
Tunnel vision.
And
Right.
safety catch off, finger on the trigger, and I'm sitting there and I'm waiting. And I didn't say it out loud, but it was one of those things where, dude, turn your head, lift finger, take a breath, and I'm gonna put it around to your temple. And I get a little bit more deep on that when I talk about that in my presentations about why I didn't take that last shot. The number one reason was because if I did take that shot, that's going to be out of vengeance. That's not for me. That's only for God. And I knew that I wouldn't be able to answer to God for that one. And the second one, because I knew the guy was dead. Again, taking that final shot, I got to answer to my brass. There's no way I could answer for that shot either. That's why I didn't take the shot. And believe me, that was a whole nother struggle too. I struggled with that for a long time. Like, man, I just so wanted to take that shot just to freaking prove my point. Head down, feel better about it, but I never did.
I can feel all of your pain on that because of decisions that had to be made in my first critical incident, where it was my only real like shooting. It wasn't my only critical incident, but it was the only real like shots fired shooting.
Yeah.
And it was one of those like, I know I made the right decisions, and my partner is alive because of it. I'm alive because of it. We had each other's back. We did the right thing. The suspect is dead. But the things that I wanted to do,
oh yes,
I didn't get to do.
Yeah.
And it creates this angst that I'll never be able to get rid of because you can't rewind time. And it's not that I screwed up. It's just that I did the right thing, not the thing I wanted to do.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right.
And that hurts. It hurts.
It was tough, man. No bullshit. It was a struggle to say the least.
And for those of you who don't understand the difference between a good man and a bad man, I'm going to explain this really, really briefly to you. Good men and bad men are capable of the same fucking thing. The difference is that bad guys do it because they want to. Good guys don't do it until they have to. Right?
I love that.
I'll take a fucking life. I don't have a problem with that. You said, hey, you know what? My first shooting, 2 years on, I said it was him or me. Fuck him. He lost. Right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't have a problem with that mindset. I really don't. I'm with you on the dog thing. Life is precious. I love it. It's amazing. I don't ever want to see anybody hurting. But if you take the wrong side of that equation and it's you or me, then it's fucking you. That's just, it's always you. It's always going to be you. And you fucked with the wrong person. And I'm, oops. That's one of the reasons one of our slogans is fuck around and find out.
Yeah,
I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah. I'm glad
that's your fault, not mine.
Yeah. I'm glad you didn't apologize. I saw you starting to apologize for that. I'm glad you didn't, because I say that all the time where I'm like, I'm not sorry for what I did, because guess what? You fucking put me in this position, man.
No, right. I'm not like, it's not, no, that's your fault, not mine. Absolutely. I'm reacting to what you did. You can go fuck yourself all the way to hell. I don't give a shit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
This, it's that whole, the joke about like, God dispenses vengeance. I just arranged the meeting, right? Yeah. That's like,
the point is, like, you shoot at me, I'm fucking shooting back,
right?
And I'm not going to.
And I'm a better shot than you are.
And I'm not stopping until you're fucking down.
Absolutely.
Right?
Oh yeah.
But I'm not going to be taking pop shots while you're down to make sure you're done.
Right. No, exactly.
I'm going to put you down and stop. That's it.
Yeah, that's not for me. That's
between professionals and bad
good
guys
professional. Now. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's the difference between a good man and a bad man. A bad man does heinous shit because he wants to. A good man does it when he has to.
Well, I'll tell you that. Sorry to be out there, Chuck.
No worries.
But I was talking about that with some of the guys early on, where it was like, that first volley, I thought, okay, maybe he just got lucky with shooting Dave, and then I very quickly realized that, man, he started taking shots at us as well. So it wasn't just that he got lucky. He was trying to kill as many of us as he could.
He was trying to take as many of you out as he could.
So that's why, again, I don't feel bad at all for putting this guy down. Again, you made the choice. You knew what you were doing. So
totally made a choice. And that was his decision. And he made his bed. Now he's laying in it. And it just happens to be a pine box.
You at that point, you realize, okay, he's down. Now we're going to move in and tactically move in, get our head straight, and do it as safe as possible to take him into custody.
Well, here's what happened, basically. Oddly enough, fast forward a little bit, they never took him out of the car. They left him in there because I knew he was freaking ERP. The guy was done for.
Yeah.
But I sat up on that Tahoe, and I went back and I listened to all the audio tapes and everything else. And there was no body camera for this whole thing, which I'm kind of thankful for. And trying to put it all back together is another whole story in itself. But so I was up on that Tahoe for about 12 minutes, as it turns out. And my buddy, SWAT guy, super cool dude. We talked about it for hours and hours, weeks and weeks later. He said something I'll never forget, because he could see I was out. I was freaking lights out. And he's calling my name. He's coming in from my right hand side. He's like, Chris. And I'm so focused that I can't focus, And he recognizes that right away. Comes up and knocks me off my feet. I don't know how I didn't have an unintentional discharge. I swear to God, I don't know how I didn't just fucking crank off a round, but I didn't, miraculously. So he knocks me off my feet, and I recognize him like, hey, Billy, SWAT, now I'm safe. And he grabbed on me. He goes, hey, man, we got you. Now you're safe. And they bunkered me out of the scene. And I was like, oh, holy shit, man. So then those guys ended up doing a tactical ingress on him and figured out the guy was done. Of course, then they got to go clear the house, because we put, as it turned out, 6 shooters, 2 rifles, including myself, of course, 71 rounds into this guy. And you guys talking about shooting guys that just don't go down. I mean, holy shit. I mean, you're laying bullets into this guy's car it's a barrage from three sides, and the guy's
Right.
still not giving up. It's like, holy mother of God.
He had made the decision to die and was going to do as much damage as he could until his lights went out. That's it.
Yeah.
And he did. You know,
He's a
he got
goblin.
more than he wanted. So,
It's a fucking goblin. That's all it is.
but
So.
luckily, so a lot of those rounds went through the back window, through the front window, through the garage, and into the house. Fortunately, there was nobody else inside the house, nobody else inside the van, and there was some discussion about that two sides of the coin. What if somebody else is inside the van? Okay, if there was a victim, let's say, that was in there, I would have probably seen that because it would have been somebody probably struggling or what have you, or if it was somebody that was on his side helping to, co-create this scene, then you got what you deserve. There was nobody else inside the car, so it's a difference. But these are things that you think about after the fact.
Yeah.
What about this?
What if it to death?
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And you do. I mean, after a critical incident, you fucking do forever, and it's just one of those things where.
Fuck, I know I did.
Yeah, and, you kind of have to on some level, too.
Yeah, I'm going to tell all of our listeners that one of the moments that sticks out in my head, because it has replayed over and over and over, was, and no joke, this is his real name, Mark Hamill. It was Senior Deputy Mark Hamill. He did not have a lightsaber. Senior Deputy Mark Hamill. When all of the recruits, he'd open it up to questions and shit like this. What if this? What if that? What if this? What if that? And I tried not to do that because you seriously, like my dad used to say, well, if a fraud had wings, it wouldn't bump its ass when it hops. That was his question to ifs, right? Or his answer to ifs. But I remember Senior Deputy Mark Hamill, God bless him, he was getting what ifed to death by all of us out on the grinder with these questions. And he goes, what if grasshoppers had fucking machine guns? I don't know. It doesn't matter. You got to do what you got to do. And nice. To this day, when I start what ifing, when I start second guessing, when I start, what if this had happened? What if this had happened? I'll answer myself and go, but it didn't. But yeah, but what if, but it didn't. Yeah, but what if, but it didn't. By that third, but it didn't. If I what if it again, all I hear is Senior Deputy Hamill yelling, what if grasshoppers had fucking machine guns? It doesn't fucking matter. And that has helped me. Like, that stupid little phrase became like a mantra that is able to break me out of that cycle of what ifing myself to death, what ifing myself into a fucking coma, because you can do it. I mean, the three of us can all attest to it. It happens really easily. You spiral. It's like a toilet bowl. Once somebody flushes, it's going to spiral till it goes down the drain, unless you have something to stop it.
Amen to that, man. Now, on the other side of that, I'm sorry again.
I was going to say, whatever. I'm so sorry. Every time you get involved in a critical incident, you're going to fucking what if that motherfucker to death. Oh, yeah. And it's a part of the whole process. And, but you just have to, if it ended up well, and you have to just, you have to live with it. But it happens. It's something you got to deal with.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. Well, on the other side, not to get too into it, but playing the what if game prior to, I teach guys how to do that all the time. It's like, hey, you got to what if you get out of your car and you face a gun, or you what if when you walk into 7 or whatever else. All that, yes. But after the fact,
that's different.
That's completely different.
That's different. And I've said this on the podcast. I'll say it again. I've been in 3,009. I've been in 4,000 gunfights. The first 3,999 of them were in my head.
Yep. Amen. Right. That's huge.
So, yeah. So. Well, Chris, I mean, shit. I know they say statistically that once you get in your first officer involved shooting, you're 60 to 70% more likely to get into a second or a third. Like once that it's a weird statistical, but I personally have theories about it. But yes, statistically speaking, once you've been in an officer involved shooting, you're likely 65 to 70% more likely to be involved in more than one once that first one happens.
Yes,
right.
Exactly.
And it sounds like you've had your fair share. So I can understand why after 20 years you're like, no, I'm good. I'll just move away from this area and never look back and find some peace and quiet. I'll find a nice corner of the world where I don't have to worry about this shit ever again.
Well, I'll tell you that the deciding factor for me to call it quits was, without getting too deep into the story, responding to an armed robbery / kidnapping call. very similar to what we went to in my last critical incident, of course. And long story short, we come around the corner, we're tracking this guy, and I come around the corner to see a guy pointing his gun into a car with two people sitting inside. And a whole other side story. I had lost my rifle because I missed a qual because I got put on. It was a whole other long thing. So now I just got my 45, which is not my go-to because the rifle is my go-to for most of my career. And so now, fast forward, I got the 45. The guy's probably 12, 15 yards away, give or take. And when he sees me, it's like this: "Hey, Phoenix PD dropped the gun," and he's like, and then he lowers the gun.
Looks at you and doesn't give a shit. Yeah.
Dude,
Right.
I'm no shit putting my gun back in the holster with the slack completely pulled out. That's when I knew I'm fucking done. I can't do this shit again. I'm never gonna survive it, And I mean, I was an instructor for fucking ever, and this is what I do. Finger slacked out and didn't even have to have mindset to freaking get it back on the frame all the way to the holster before I realized it. I'm like, holy mother of God. I'm done. I consider myself a danger to
a liability,
my community. I thought, no, I just can't do this anymore. So,
Right.
But you know what? That's important that
Good
you
for you.
realized it, and good for you to say, I'm done. I've put in my time. I've done it. I've been there, done that. Got the fucking t-shirt, and I'm gonna go stare at some daisies for a while and just watch the grass grow because fuck it. At this point, I've earned it. Well, as you know, Chris, we let all of our guests dedicate their episode to whomever they like, and Chuck and I would like to piggyback on. So,
Exactly.
we'd like you to go first, if you don't mind.
Okay. I'd love to dedicate to my buddy David Glasser, serial number 8144. Gave up his life May 18th, 2016. Good man. So,
Rest easy.
And
Officer Glasser, we got it from here.
We would like to, as we said,
Chuck and I want to piggyback on that.
Yeah, we want to piggyback off that. As you know, the Ukraine is defending an invasion from Russia, and those badasses on Snake Island who told.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, I'll give a little bit of a backstory. Snake Island is a tiny little island that had 13 Ukrainian soldiers on it, right?
Yeah,
13.
Basically said, "Fuck you."
Yeah, the Russian Navy pulled up and said over the loudspeaker, "Surrender." And the Ukrainian response, and I wish my grandmother had taught me to speak Russian because I would love to be able to say this in the native tongue, but it was the Ukrainian equivalent of "Go fuck yourself."
Yeah, there was also another.
The Russian Navy proceeded to shell the island, killing all 13 of them. I believe one of them was able to post on social media right before the shelling and right before they were all killed.
There was one who decided to detonate the bridge.
That was yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he fucking blew himself up so that they could not have access.
Yep.
Nice. Good for him.
And we're for those of you who missed the live show, go back, listen to the replay. We're gonna talk about some of the badass shit.
A lot of it.
And these are, I have a special place in my heart because some of the people that have listened to the show or Locker Room long enough know that I've got family that fled the Soviet Revolution and were born and from Ukraine and from Russia, and so this is very personal to me in a lot of ways. But God damn it, those men will go down in history. And as far as I'm concerned, the fucking number 13 and the Ukrainian phrase "go fuck yourself" should be on every special operations unit patch, much the way the Greek special forces have "we fight in the shade" as a tribute to the 300 that fought the battle at Thermopylae. Well, Ukraine, you need to the story is now the 13, and those 13 told the Russians to go fuck themselves and gave up their lives for it. So we'd like to dedicate this episode to your buddy, and we'd like to dedicate this episode to those 13 Ukrainian soldiers. Chuck, God damn, that was a big whew, that was a deep one. That was a lot. I mean, Chris, thank you so much for coming on. I mean, it's very heavy, and I'm so glad you're here to talk about it, and I'm so glad that you can give your wisdom to other people. Just know that come back anytime. I'm sure you have way more stories.
Yeah, I got you. Matter of fact, if I can, I actually wrote a book on the whole thing too. So
Yeah, no, please tell us.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
I call it When That Day Comes, Training for the Fight. If you look really close, you can see it was actually endorsed by Dave Grossman, which is like
nice.
the biggest
Amazing.
event of my life, short of meeting my girlfriend, which she did all the editing. God bless her. So
Amazing. Where can they get that?
Yeah.
it's actually it's on Amazon.
Okay.
Try to make sure you find it because I've got two versions. This is the second version, the updated version, if you will.
So it's When That Day Comes, second edition,
Training for the Fight. Yep.
Training for the Fight.
So it's on Amazon. I'll be more than happy to mail you guys a copy of it if you guys
Yeah,
want to
please
sign a
do.
copy.
Yeah.
Yeah, please do.
It's on Audible as well. So,
Oh, amazing.
and it's from what I'm being told is from now that you guys have talked for a little while. So a lot of guys that know me say that it's almost like I'm to you, which for me is a compliment ever. I was like, okay, shit, yeah. I'm also being told that it's almost being like on a written ride along, which is freaking like holy shit, man. But I break down the stories in much greater detail, and it's there are some hard parts to read, of course, because you're dealing with the officers being killed and stuff like that, of course. But there's a lot of lighthearted stuff in there, a lot of humor, and it's flat out, straight up, no bullshit, real cop life. I mean,
I'm
from
looking forward to reading
fucking day one. I'd love you guys to get your feedback on, especially with you guys' level of experience. I love that kind of shit because I want to know again, just like with the gunfight, did I fuck this up half right or whatever? No difference between that and the book. I want to know, hey man, this is 1980s technology. Fucking move on or whatever.
You laid yourself bare, man. I'm looking forward to it. I'll be more than happy.
I'm gonna read it.
Thanks,
I got
guys.
time.
For sure.
Yeah, I appreciate that,
Chuck will make sure we'll get you some stuff, and we'll make sure we get those books sent out to us, and we'll exchange goodies. So
I love it, man. I love it, guys.
So
and as
remember,
always,
you guys can see that live video. Well, not live anymore, but you guys can see the replay of the live video.
Yeah, and we're going to be going over everything that we've been asked thus far regarding Russia, China, our thoughts on the whole matter, and all of that. We're going to go into depth as much as we can in the short time that we're going to be allotted. And then
because there's so much, we're just going to answer the questions
so
and give our thoughts. It's not a long video.
No, and then for those of you that still want to grab some shirts, some gear, some stuff like that, some Whoopie hoodies, go up there. They're still available, limited quantities. Support us, support the podcast, and we'll try to get it out to you guys as fast as possible.
Get this beautiful 40 Mike. Let's see if I can get the 40 Mike fuck around and find out sticker.
I love that.
Yeah.
Dude. I need to get one of those, put it on my motorcycle. So.
Oh no, we'll send it to you. Don't worry. We'll send you a patch.
Awesome,
we'll send you some stickers. Yeah.
Sweet. Thanks, guys.
For sure.
Throw me down your contact info in the email, and I will call you.
Yeah, for sure.
So
We'll exchange addresses. So
for sure. If you guys ever in San Diego, let me know.
Hey, I don't know when I'm coming back to California, but if I do, it's gonna be to visit some of the key people down there, and you're certainly one of them. So
rock and roll. Thanks, guys.
Well,
Absolutely.
Chuck, again, you guys can support us by following us on social media. Do Chuck has all that information? Go ahead, Chuck.
Yeah, so go to Instagram, Facebook. You can have the links in the bio. You can hit us up on our website. You can grab our patches. I think I might have one of those left. We have other patches, the FAFO. We have the embroidered War Stories patriotic patch. We have some shirts. We have the Whoopie hoodies left. And if you guys message on Instagram or Facebook, or even just go to booking.warstories@gmail.com for all your booking needs. If you think you have a story and you want to come on the show, shoot me a text or email there, and we'll discuss it and we'll go over it. Let me know if you guys want a hat. I have some hats. We have some hats still available. They're not up on the website, so if you message me, there's just so much of a limited quantity that if
the hats were limited edition. We never put them up. It's just
so
we pre-ordered them. They were by interest only, but we did still end up with a couple extras.
And we do. And if you want some, hit me up there. Go to booking.warstories, Instagram, Facebook, message us there, and like if you have a story and you really want to, try to come on the show, we do have a few people booked out for about a month, but sometimes spots open very quickly.
Sure.
Sometimes people have to reschedule, and Chris is a byproduct of that.
Right, perfect
And
example.
because he was going to come on in about a month, and you know what? We had to reschedule a couple things, and then we have people from down under, and it's a little bit harder to schedule. And you know what I mean? So trying to get people on very quickly. Sometimes, when they reschedule, you can bring people on that
just stay in touch because you never know what's going to happen. It's fluid.
Never know.
So, anyway. Great, right. Chuck. Well, Chris, thanks for coming on. You have an open invite to come back anytime and chat. Thanks, if you're ever in North Idaho, we'll go grab a drink. And if I'm ever in San Diego, we're going to go to the Gaslamp District and do a pub crawl, I'm sure.
I work a block from there, man, all day. So we're
perfect. There, so. Well, until our next episode, come home with your shield or on it.